music that the group sang and the other pieces.
Oh, yeah.
So was that musically more in the style of the Sacred Heart?
Yeah.
Because you also mentioned Lowell Mason, so I'm trying to get a sense of.
Mason wrote that tune.
Okay,
What happens in the Sacred Heart is every once in a while, a tune like Mason's gets in because it's popular later, and then people say, oh, well, let's put it in. It's only 2 lines, let's stick it on a page. But the Sacred Heart tradition follows earlier choral practice, Renaissance choral practice. The melody is in the tenor, and it is not up top where the sopranos are.
oh,
So, let's be the time, the sopranos are singing that.
right,
Well, in that rendition, what are called the leads, the tenor part, is singing the melody. So the resonance, the sound configuration is different because the melody is buried in the middle and the harmony is flanking it, top and bottom. It's just a different thing. And that's a much older practice, and it's just been preserved for a long time. So basically, you would find Boylston in a regular hymnal with the treble, the soprano, and the tenor parts flipped. That's what would happen.
all right,
Okay?
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Anything else, anybody?
I have a question. The Medfield Historical Society has Lowell Mason's piano. And I was wondering, I believe it was made in 1850. I don't know where he was living at the time, how he happened to get it. Was he living in Boston?
He left Boston in 51. So
But he lived in Medfield at that time?
he kept up with his old friends.
Yeah.
He visited, he did all of that. He lived, as far as I know, he lived in town. But for one thing, it's possible that he just had it in town and he was leaving.
Yeah.
And he dropped it off to one of the Adamses or something. This sort of thing happened all the time. But you'd have to find out. And I don't happen to know, but it's great that you have it.
Yeah. It's not a great piano.
No, it's not.
I
Same thing is-
tried to
same thing
find
is
something
true.
on the
Same thing
manufacturer.
is
I think
true
it made
for,
about 5 of them. And then
For Haydn, I played Haydn's harpsichord. It's a nice harpsichord, but it ain't anything special. Okay, anybody else?
So Steve, you managed to tell this whole story and talk only about the men.
I know.
But David is here, I know he had kids, and you did mention that he had 4.
Yep.
And I looked to see when they were born. They were born in 29 and 31. So did he have the kids when he was back here up in Boston? And did he go to Europe by himself, or?
An appropriate question from a wealthy grad, and not an unexpected one from a wealthy professor. So, there just isn't a whole lot in the material, because it's all like redemptive domesticity for women in the early 19th century. So she just took care of the family, and he went out and sold money in books. It's just, there's obviously much more to that. I think the main women's story in all this is Katie Mom, who really, she does the traditional women's role, instill the faith
Yeah.
and it worked. And look what happened. So there's that. The family, he went twice to Europe. The first time he was in 71 by himself, meeting her. And when you go to Europe, you go for months.
Right.
Because it takes you forever to get there and back. They both went together in 1852.
Okay.
And in 52, he was really lionized. And so she was there too, and they went.
Empty nest.
Hmm?
Empty nest travel.
Yes, exactly so, exactly so. They apparently both enjoyed it very much. It seems to be a very strong relationship. But I don't personally know of any evidence where she's influencing him or participating in all of this. I just don't know. My guess is, of course, because they're almost always in his car.
But she went with him to Savannah.
Oh yeah, she was just
Was she was from here?
She was from here.
Yeah.
They got married right before, and then
No.
they were down there. Yeah, the kids were getting born and all that. So
Yep.
she accompanied him in his life's journey for sure.
Was he involved at all in abolition, one way or the other?
Another good question, and we would all want to know about that. I don't know of any political activity Beecher's children were all abolitionists. Beecher himself was anti-slavery, but he was not abolitionist. He was in a borderlands location in Cincinnati. He didn't want folks coming across the river and burning the seminary. So he's one of that long generation that is doing the juggling act. I talked to my students today about from the Compromise of 1820 to the Compromise of 1850, the United States Congress just played footsie with the slavery question. They just simply did. If you wanna bring in Maine, you gotta bring in Missouri. Slave free. And they just balanced it out for 30 long years while the Republic went to hell and eventually kaboom. So, Daniel Webster, another example. Even Calhoun, John C. Calhoun, compromisers, keep it in balance, or be agnostic about the whole issue if you're in a vulnerable place. The Presbyterians were at war over this. You didn't want to get into that. The Congregationalists were pretty clearly on the anti-slavery side, but there were plenty who weren't activists, who weren't abolitionists. So if you're a church musician, you don't go there. Anyway, he did. But I think that you can understand the context as for why. Richard.
Steve, 2 sentences out of Wikipedia, and it ends with a note that says citation needed. But it says this is him in Savannah. He also became a leader in the music of the Independent Presbyterian Church,
Yes.
where he served as choir director and organist. Under his initiative, his church created the first Sunday school for black children in America at the now historic First Bryan Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. Citation needed.
Yep. I have seen that. He also came around to endorsing an early black composer. Took a while, but he did. So that's not political anti-slavery. Those are functions of his compassion for children, which goes all the way back in his career and is consistent all the way through. And in Savannah, it hits you right in the face with racism and slavery. So it's to his great credit that he was part of that, and he was. And his endorsement of a black composer and musician feels more to me like the Fellowship of Composers and Musicians than it does a political statement, but you simply can't go all the way down that line, because there was obviously strong intent here. The good elders of Savannah were not happy about the fact that there was literacy being provided for black kids. I mean, it was radical there, and Sunday schools were just getting started. They were just beginning to ramp up during that time, the 1820s. And so there was a way to do this because everybody was opening Sunday schools. You could say, well, why not for art? And Savannah and Georgia, the Savannah River, were historic, really very important historic locations of independent black Baptist churches, going back to the 18th century. So there was a black ecclesiastical and religious presence there, some very distinguished ministers. It's probably the case that Mason and his friends thought, we need more literacy, we can jump on this Sunday school thing and provide it, we'll fund it, and we'll improve we're trying to improve the social and cultural standing of kids whose parents go to this church. Something like that, I would guess, would be in their mind. That'd be my assumption. Good question.
Who was the black composer you mentioned?
I don't remember. I have it in my notes. I had never heard of them. So I can get it to you. Sorry. This one got thrown together.
Are these other artifacts you have here?
I do. We also have man himself.
Ah,
Here he is. You Masonophiles
wow.
come up and take a look. This is him in his prime. Lots of images of him. Very famous. he is. Okay, we said it.
That's,
All right.
one little footnote to this. A couple of years ago, there was a young woman from Medfield who came to the Historical Society with her fiance. I mean, it was a meet the parents trip. He was from Washington DC, and she was living down there with him. And he walked into the Historical Society having no idea what to expect. And he saw the bust of Lowell Mason